Lee Camp, ladies and gentlemen.
Hey, how's it going, Graham?
Good, buddy. How are you doing?
All right. You just said two things I've never heard in sentences before. There was according. Well, okay, I haven't heard in 15 years. There was according to Yahoo News. You actually said that out loud, which was amazing. I had no idea they hadn't been bought out by like Airbnb like years ago.
I thought they were just part of the Twitch gaming universe. I didn't know.
And then you literally rephrased it and you go, according to this Yahoo, which, yeah, it is according to this Yahoo.
Is there a difference? No.
No, not really.
Some online Yahoos have claimed that that Biden has won some of these states.
And then my reusable copper straw is knowing you a little, I kind of thought maybe you were using a lead straw, but it's good to see you've switched to copper.
I did use lead for a while, but I don't know, I had nightmares. It was weird. It messed with my sleep, so I moved it over to copper. And it's fantastic.
I mean, it's wonderful that you used your cocaine snorting device for drinking smoothies. That's awesome. Let's see, that is reusable.
Yeah, so I can do blow with this. I can make a smoothie. It's great.
It sucks when you wake up on the wrong side of the bed and you snort your smoothie and drink your cocaine. It's awful.
I accidentally put cocaine in a smoothie once. That was a wild afternoon. I'm going to tell you that right now. But it was a vegan high. It just felt a little better. You know what I mean?
And then you let us know that you have on your professional shirt today. There's probably you have like a Superman underneath it, right? Or a Batman, something underneath it.
I typically have Batman underoos on at any given moment.
Underoos, yeah.
Or I wear Batman's ladies' underwear. That's just how I feel more comfortable. That's who I am. That's how I express myself.
Yeah. By the way, something you mentioned. So they've called. Apparently, Fox News and AP are the two that have called Arizona for Biden. All of the others are not yet calling it for Biden. And if you look at the percentages Trump's getting of the new vote versus what he's got to make up, he's actually within like 0.1 percentage points. Like Arizona may come down to like 12 votes. But Fox News and AP have called it for Biden while the others haven't.
What?
Yeah. Fox, apparently, rumor has it the Fox News decision desk is actually fairly legit. They're not just Sean Hannity and writing in crayon. So
just Tucker Carlson's math ramblings.
Yeah, it's not just Tucker Carlson screaming at somebody. I did the math. Write it on the board. So apparently the decision desk is fairly good, which is kind of funny because you have like some of the Fox News commentators like Tucker Carlson and them ranting and raving about Trump still won. He still won. But meanwhile, a third of the Fox News screen basically just has numbers that say Trump lost.
So let's find that. Let's find the Fox poll real quick.
If you type in Fox News Arizona, you'd probably find it.
Elections, Fox News. Let's see. Well, yeah.
See?
So
264 is with Arizona. Is giving him Arizona.
Yep. So they've claimed they said Arizona's final.
Right, but if you go to, I don't know if CNN has a map, but if you were to go to the CNN map, they say Biden is at 253, so he does not have Arizona. So.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, granted, this if you're listening to this podcast 3 days from now, this might all be old news. But the Pennsylvania, I mean, Biden has this, but the Pennsylvania numbers are too hard to make up. It's, I mean, the numbers coming in, there's like 100,000 some votes left, and Trump has to get like 60%, and he's getting like 30%. And like he's not even really close.
So
the question is, did you get the racist, rapist, war criminal of your choice?
It's so exciting. It's like when somebody was like, they're mad. They're like, it looks like the Democrats are cheating. Oh, yeah, maybe they are. I don't know. I mean, 96 million votes were cast. We've never had an election in a pandemic. We've never had 96 million mail-in ballots. We've never had these things. It stands to reason that because of the COVID deaths, and this isn't me defending the Democrats or Joe Biden at all, but I was just sort of playing devil's advocate to somebody. It was actually Pasta from the Convo Couch was just like, man, it really seems like the Democrats are cheating. And I said, maybe they are. But
go ahead.
I was just going to say, it also stands, we've never had an election like this ever. And it also stands to reason that Trump's mishandling of COVID was and I've never seen a get out the vote effort like this in my life. I've never seen it this much of a get out the vote effort. And all these states had early voting and vote by mail and all this stuff. So all the vote by mail is going to take time to tally. Like that's just a fact. That's going to happen. But either way, it's like who's fighting over this is like, it's like the Titanic sinking and we're bitching at, is it the captain or the guys who built the boat and it wasn't as safe? Who gives a shit? The boat's going down. It's over. So what? Like,
yeah, I tweeted something similar to that too. I was like, look, Biden has won this. I'm sorry if that upsets you, but you should save your anger for actually changing the system, not getting upset at which of the racist, rapist, war criminals won this election. So yeah, the anger is misdirected. But in terms of, I mean, here's the thing: is I have spent, I'd say, about 8 years really deep in the election integrity movements and talking to the people that have been doing the work for years and reading their books and reading their work. And it's just quite evident that in the general election, the largest thing to manipulate the vote in the general, I've covered the DNC rigging in the primary, but that's not what we're talking about. In the general election, the largest thing that changes the accurate vote is the millions purged from the rolls. And these are, because it benefits the Democrats to have as many people voting as possible, usually, this is almost exclusively done by Republicans in Republican states. And it's done mostly towards people of color. Now, it's not a smart bomb, so it's not just people of color. It is people of color, poor people, younger people, but percentage-wise, it's far more people of color that get purged than anything else. And so if someone wants to get upset about, this election is not accurate, they're welcome to do that. But if you were to really have a legit count of all the votes, Biden would be winning. The Democrats would be winning by more, not less. And right now they're talking about all these. There's 100,000 provisional ballots in Pennsylvania that still need to be counted. Now those could go a little more evenly to Trump because provisional ballots tend to be cast in person. So if a bunch of most Democrats mailed in their ballots, whereas most Republicans showed up in person, then of that 100,000, more so could go to Trump. However, you got to take into account that provisional ballots are far more filled out by Democrats because those are the ones far more purged from the voter rolls. So you have a lot of, black and brown people showing up, being told they're not on the registration, being upset about it, but then they're given this ballot they think is real, called a provisional ballot, that is often not counted. And so, I mean, even of the provisional ballots, that's probably the best you can hope for is probably, meaning Republicans, would be a 50-50 split. And that's not enough to get Trump to win Pennsylvania at the end of the day. And then if you really want to get deep into it, all those provisional ballots, as far as I know, are filled out in person. And these are all people who were purged. 100,000 people that were purged that showed up to the vote, weren't allowed to vote because they weren't registered, but most of them probably should have been registered but were purged. And those are the ones that showed up in person. If you had that same process via the mail votes, then you would have hundreds of thousands more Democrats able to vote. But in the mail votes, if you're not registered, they just throw it in the fucking trash can. So probably hundreds of thousands of mail votes were thrown out because of the purging done in this country. And, this is standard.
Yeah, I mean, we know this. It's the same tactic in the primaries. I mean, the Democrats purge the provisional ballots in their primaries because they know most independents are going to vote for the progressive. Obviously, the last 2 times it's been Bernie.
And not just independents, but people who are new to voting. So they show up, they haven't registered, whatever, they thought they registered. So they just push provisional ballots on all of them, and they, throw out most of them.
Yeah. So yeah, that's an interesting take on it. And I mean, I don't know.
But he hasn't. I mean, here's the thing: is I hate being put in a position of just like Biden won. It's like, as I've said, I largely don't give a shit. Maybe there's a 0.5% of me that thinks Trump is probably more likely to get us all involved in nuclear Armageddon, but that's not much. I'm put in this position of like defending Biden's win as if I wanted Biden to win, but that's not it. I'm just for election integrity. Whatever little remainder of horseshit democracy we have, I'm going to fight for that. And so I called this whole situation in August. I tweeted out, this is what's going to happen. Trump is sowing confusion so that at the night of he can declare victory. He won't actually have won. They'll still be counting votes. They'll be counting all the mail-in votes. And I called it all. It was easy to see this coming. And I kind of was fearing that I would be put in this position when they're counting the votes of being like, no, Biden won. Also, fuck that guy. Like,
I know it's really, I mean, the takeaway from this, when people are like, well, these ballots and these, it's just like, if you're watching this process and having any other thought than, man, our system is completely broken, I don't know what you're paying attention to. It's like, and 20 years when we went through this hanging Chad, we're like, didn't we learn 20 years ago this is just a completely bullshit broken system?
Hold on. For everyone who's under 20 but probably under 30, please explain what the hanging Chad situation was.
Right, exactly. So, but all right, back then we used to use
because it's hilarious.
It's hilarious. And when I explain it, you're going to think like, gee, granddad, are you like, it sounds like we all used to gather around the Philco and listen to FDR give talks. Like, it sounds ridiculous. But they would do these, what the hell are those punch card things?
Yeah, it was punch card ballots. You would take a little tool. There was a little metal poker, and you would poke out the hole, and please everyone make the porn jokes in a second, but you would poke the hole of the candidate you wanted.
Yes. So that's just how they kept it anonymous, right? So there'd be this punch card, you would lay it, you'd slip it. This is so preposterous. It's literally like we would put the woman in the water, and if she floated, she was a witch. Like, it's so insane.
You had to churn the butter with a stick. Yeah.
You'd tan your own leather, and then this is how you would vote with it. You would slide this thing in, and then you would punch it in. So then you'd vote for like whatever, Al Gore, boom, and then it would be like number 114. So if you voted 114, it was Al Gore. If you voted 115, it was, George Bush or whatever.
Right. So then they'd put it in a machine that would read where you punched.
Yes. And then if the Chad, which was perforated, didn't get all the way punched out, it would be hanging.
Graham, Granddad, what is a Chad?
It's this guy who was in a fraternity. And
if you have on khaki pants right now, you are a Chad. It's the male equivalent of a Karen.
Do you ever wear golf shirts? Okay, there you go. That's a Chad. So it's literally, this sounds insane when we explain it. It sounds insane. Like,
so the Chad was the piece of paper that got punched out. Yes. And it was supposed to like fall on the floor, but sometimes it would end up hanging on.
Right. Because if you did it at an angle or whatever, it'd be like 4 corners of the Chad. This is so preposterous. And so some of it would be hanging. So then this was this thing in Florida, and they're checking the Chads, and it's like it came down to 537 votes, which was a great smokescreen from the fact that actually the Florida Secretary of State, I believe, discounted 170,000 ballots.
Catherine Harris.
Catherine Harris. And Al Gore just let that happen and he rolled over.
Dude, and actually, I thought that, I mean, this isn't over. Maybe Biden will fucking do the same. I don't think he will, but he could still do the same thing. But I had thought that the Democrats very well could do the same thing in this election before Tuesday. I was saying they could do the same thing this time around because, and here's the reason why they do that and why Al Gore and the system behind him did that is because they're more interested in the corporate machinery of our government running without interruption than they are at actually being president. And that's because they agree on 90% of the structural issues of the country. So it's more important just to have things seem kind of to flawlessly continue on than it is to get the Democrat in the White House.
Yes. It's insane. It's a punch card is what it was technically called. First of all, we forgot to really do a formal intro, ladies and gentlemen. 391 people watching. Please hit the like button, but you are watching and listening to Government Secrets, episode 15. Wesley Camp and Graham Elwood. Election 2020.
Wow, you did just have your green milkshake.
I did. You
are fired up.
My reusable copper straw, which again, I followed them when they were just a small bar band and they were fantastic. They got a little corporate recently, but
they did sell those straws after the show, which I thought was perfect.
I bought that in 1996 when they were just a small band.
You know what else is nice about those straws is if a friend or someone near you is choking, instant tracheotomy.
That's a beautiful thing.
Solve the problem.
I've given a couple tracheotomies to people. Turns out they just had a cough or something, but whatever.
Turns out they were just trying to get my attention. They were like,
I just jammed it in their throat. And they're like, I'm like, see, I saved your life. They're like,
see, now you can breathe. I could breathe before.
It was fine, asshole. Now I got a hole in my neck. So it's episode 15, and I know that because I actually checked. I actually did strong, hard research to see that last week we called it episode 14.
What vitamins are you on? Because you are firing on all cylinders today.
You see what happens when I put on a nice shirt with a little pocket, with a little kid's pocket on the side? I start to focus more. I think I'm going to start wearing nicer shirts, Lee, and I'm going to get a fancier background, and I'm going to turn this into a real thing.
The comic book characters it creates a little apathy in the human spirit. I feel when it's on your chest.
The comic book character creates apathy in the human spirit.
when it's the t-shirt you're wearing, yeah, I don't know what it is. It just does. Maybe it's because you can't measure up. Maybe it's because all day you're thinking, I'm no Black Panther. You're
right. And now I'm like, wow, I'm better than this stupid shirt I bought at Ross for $9, so I can conquer the world. I can jam a copper straw in your throat and not care. So now I'm the superhero. I'm Captain One Pocket or whatever we want to call myself.
It's like Batman's utility belt. That pocket right there. You have your shark repellent spray in there.
Yes, I have a reusable copper straw. I have. And a bag of cocaine.
So something I thought we could talk about is all the ways this election system could be better.
I think we're fine. I think this is going to be a short episode then, because this is a perfect system, Lee. We have.
It's a good point.
Look, in the Iowa caucus, we got down to flipping a coin. So I don't know what's wrong with.
In multiple different caucuses, there were coin flips that went on.
Yeah.
And oddly, I remember 2016, Hillary won all the coin tosses, which just goes to show she's got all the luck.
Somebody in the chat just put, Mississippians just voted to strike down Jim Crow legislation and voted to approve medical marijuana. We're finally transforming Mississippi. So, yeah, let's talk about how we can do election reform, because one of the takeaways from all this, it looks like Biden's going to win. But, the Democrats sold us on this centrism wins, let's get the Romney Republicans on board. And yet all these progressive policies have passed in many red states, like Florida passed $15 an hour minimum wage, Mississippi passed medical marijuana and got rid of a Jim Crow law. Like, you're seeing a lot of progressive policies pass. because they can't, like we've talked about on this show before, it's harder to rig all the local ballot measure election stuff. They really focus on rigging the big stuff. So
yeah, well, and the ballot measures don't come down to party, which it's easier to purge someone from a party. But if you have Republicans and Democrats voting 70 or 80% for legalizing marijuana, then you don't know who to purge. You don't know who to disenfranchise.
Well, this is, you see, that answers your question. That's a great thing, because also like Fox News put out an exit poll saying that 72% of their people basically want government run healthcare, which Medicare for All is not government run. That's a bullshit. But even under that fake slanted framing of Medicare for All, still got 72% of people from Fox wanting this to happen, which is why they go, oh, the majority wants all these things. That's why we'll give them the choice between no Medicare for all with science and no Medicare for all without science. So,
well, yeah. So this whole thing is a great point. This is how our government system, our legislators have been captured by the corporate state. So they're not doing any of this shit. But if you talk to people, average human beings in America, and you say, do you want this? Do you want this? Do you want this? Do you want to decriminalize marijuana? Do you want health care? Do you want, like, they run, it's like 70, 80% want these things, $15 minimum wage, all that shit. But the government doesn't do any of it, because, you know, my favorite study, the Large Princeton study, measured 1,779 policy issues and found that the American people have zero impact on getting anything through government unless it aligns with corporate interests. But in this past election, every single ballot initiative that was against the drug war passed. In all these states, in conservative states, South Dakota, and D.C. Decriminalized psilocybin, and marijuana. What's that?
Oregon passed a very progressive,
Oregon decriminalized all drugs. It's fucking incredible.
It's
and that's proven. And for anybody out there who still thinks like, oh, that's going to be a shit show, everyone's going to be running around with heroin needles hanging out of their eyes. Actually, Portugal was the first to decriminalize all drugs, or maybe the first Western country or something. But and it has been doing great. It has the second lowest overdose rate in all of Europe, and it's helped people immensely, because drugs can be looked at as a health issue rather than a lock them up issue.
It's exactly correct. And this is the thing: people are going to be running around with heroin needles. They already are. We have had a opioid epidemic in this country for the last, 10 years. I mean, it's been brutal. And and the thing people don't understand, especially like some of the neoliberals in the big cities, when they so don't understand why Trump got elected, is he went to these working class white places and he did xenophobia, and he's still doing all that fucking, he says crazy shit. He's saying crazy shit right now. It's a matter of time before he goes, get your guns. I'm going to stay president. Like, I'm worried about that. But you got people don't understand the opioid epidemic has decimated communities in this country. And part
of that's because the people switch to the illegal version when they stop being able to get the legal version. And yep. That one is completely unregulated, obviously. So you end up with people taking shit they don't understand, they don't know the power of it, and they end up dying. Now, if this was decriminalized, you wouldn't have that.
Right. And then you've also got Purdue Pharmaceutical that just had to pay a huge lawsuit, deliberately lying to their doctor, to giving this saying, oh, it's not that habit forming. So their doctors are saying, oh, it's not that habit forming. They deliberately helped perpetuate and even increase the opioid epidemic, because they're like, hey, a bunch of addicts, that's good for stocks. Like, that's how evil our capitalism is. And people don't understand exactly right. We've had some form of a war on drugs for almost 100 years, really. And we shouldn't, it is a health issue. And the whole country having this, and poor white areas, rural areas getting overrun by this. South Dakota, North Dakota, South Dakota has been like the meth capital of the U.S. for years. And it is a primarily white state. They've seen it's decimated. There's gangs, there's crimes, there's prostitution, all the stuff that happens with the inner city drug problems. And people are like, wow. I mean, you drive through like Ohio, there's signs up like drug addiction treatment. It's everywhere in this country. So people are realizing, oh man, we need to treat this like it is a health problem. It's not a criminal issue. It's a health issue. Addiction, any addict out there is like, I need help. Putting me in prison didn't help, you know?
Yeah. And, I mean, and this also loops back into voting. I mean, the drug war initially was designed to upend and destroy communities of color, and it succeeded in a lot of ways. But also, in most states, if you get convicted of a crime, you can't then vote, or you can't vote for a period of years. So this also succeeded in stopping a lot of black and brown people from voting, right. Which again serves the purpose of most of the ruling elite. And then, Florida recently tried to overturn that with a ballot initiative. Again, ballot initiative passed in 2018 saying people who'd been convicted of crime could vote, which they should be able to. And then the state tried to basically undo it by saying that they would have to pay all kinds of court fees. So basically show up to vote and you owe $1,000. And I don't know actually where it ended in the court system, whether they got to vote or not. But it was just, it's fucking ridiculous. But anyway.
Yeah. So getting back to the initial topic here, I mean, we're seeing how these things, like, it's funny, like drugs just won the drug war, it looks like. So
yeah. I love it. Someone tweeted out like, I need to congratulate drugs for winning the drug war.
Which is awesome. So how do we change the election system? Obviously, like ranked choice voting was on the ballot in Massachusetts. It looked like it wasn't going to win, but I don't know how it ended up, if it played out.
I ranked it second on things I wanted on my ballot. So.
I don't think you understand what I'm talking about. No, so I mean, like, obviously ranked choice voting, I'm a big proponent of getting the money in politics. But I mean, honestly, it feels like we need, watching this election system in America, it's so Byzantine, it's so outdated by design. That's why it's so convoluted. We need to get rid of the Electoral College. We need all of these things.
I know for those who haven't quite pondered it yet, the only reason the Electoral College exists in the first place is to make sure the ruling elite have the possibility to overturn something that the popular will wanted. Yeah. So, I mean, that's why it was put in place in the first place, was what if the unwashed masses vote for something that we don't like? We'll still have the final say. So there's absolutely no reason for the Electoral College, which of course wouldn't create this show of trying to get to 270. I mean, Biden's won the popular vote by an insane margin, or at least a margin that's not even debatable. But so, you have ranked choice voting, you have automatic registration, paper ballots. We need to get back to, or I know you've talked about this, blockchain open source voting. Yes. I mean, we should all be able to see the code of this shit.
Blockchain open source voting, I think, is what we should have. And like Mike Gravel put out a book recently, like a year or so, maybe this year, I can't remember, talking about how we should just, the people should be voting on laws. The laws should be 500 words or less, so you can't hide pork belly bullshit in there. And imagine if we got to vote on this, not Congress and Senate and all this other nonsense. They put a law out. It was online. You had a week to read it. And then America voted online doing blockchain open source technology. You can't hack it. You can't cheat. And it's like, here's the vote. And America, we get to vote.
Well, and have you heard of this? I think they're calling it Democracy 4.0, would be the idea that you would still have representatives, but the only time their vote comes into play is if 50% of or whatever percent you decide on, of an area doesn't vote on the issue. So if people don't choose to go online and actually vote, then your representative would make the choice. But as long as you have a certain number of people voting on it, the rep doesn't do anything. Right.
That's just as a deal, like a coin, whatever, the deciding vote, if it's 50-50 split or whatever. Yeah, man. Yeah. You say the measure's got to, I love that idea. And I just like, that would get rid of and that would get the money out of politics, because there's no politician there's no lobby. There's no reason for lobby groups, because these politicians really don't have a say in it. We have a say in it. We should be voting on this. The whole country should be deciding if it wants legalized marijuana. The whole country should decide on this. And maybe you want to make it a state by state issue, fine. Then each state can just vote. And without all this, because who writes the laws? These liars and these think tanks that are paid by lobby organizations and everything else. That's the thing in Gravel's book. It's such an easily laid out plan. The law has to be 500 words or less, and it has to be plain English. It can't be legalese bullshit to keep you distracted. And when people go, what does that mean? It's got to be plain English. We are voting to decriminalize marijuana. Here's what it'll mean. Here's the tax cost or whatever. And yes or no. And
yeah, I mean, that's something when I talk about the criminal justice system, I always make a point of saying, where did most of these laws come from initially? The vast majority were passed by rich white men. Right. So it's like our criminal justice system is already built upon a foundation of, immense elitism and racism. And yeah, some of the worst stuff has been overturned, but a lot of it's still sitting there.
Yeah. Yeah. It's still sitting there. And I think the ruling class might want to wake up to the fact that if they don't give the power to the people are going to eventually take it and they're done. Like, I don't know if they realize how there are people setting up guillotines outside of Jeffrey Bezos's home. So that's going to start happening outside of a lot of their homes. Hopefully.
Well, so let me ask you, assuming Biden wins, assuming they drag Trump out of the White House kicking and screaming after he's wiped his ass on all the 18th century furniture, Biden is going to be faced with, a fucking incredible depression, pandemic continuing, late stage capitalism where, workers have just been fully exploited. Everyone's suffering. The people, you got 100 million people possibly facing eviction, and environmental, collapse. We're getting close to. Do people start to understand that this is more than just the red blue paradigm, or does everyone go back to sleep?
Well, some of the vote any blue will do people will go back to sleep, but they will be woken up when this economic collapse hits. Like you can't avoid this. It's like the people still dancing and singing on the Titanic. They're going to suddenly feel real cold water. And go, wow. Hey,
at some point their shoes get wet and they start to care.
Hey, we're going down. Like at some point that's going to happen. So, the economic collapse is going to hit, and Trump's or Obama's or what's his idiot's name? Oh, Biden. I get my war criminals mixed up. And so when this collapse happens, and again, COVID, there's a second. We're getting into the second surge. The winter is here. It's coming, and Joe Biden is going to inherit that. Trump is going to, try to set as much shit on fire in the next 3 months as he can, and it's going to be ugly. So when the 30 million evictions hit, when the stock market crashes and the commercial real estate bubble bursts and the regular real estate bubble bursts and markets and all this stuff collapses at once, then there's going to be people in the streets protesting, and they're going to be protesting in Portland, and federal troops are going to snatch them up, and they're going to go, wait, I thought only Trump did bad thing. I think this and everything. And we're going to see this week, maybe, I mean, the Trumper white nationalists that show up armed. Typically the cops have been kind of protecting them with regards to when they show up at like a Black Lives Matter thing, the cops, we've seen evidence of this in city after city. They kind of protect the Second Amendment white nationalist people. What they did in Michigan, they didn't, they don't hold them. But that's that.
Yeah, in the Charlottesville attack, which I was there, they were told, it came out later, they were told to stand down and basically let it all happen.
So when those people lose their jobs too, then the cops are going to do what the cops are going to do. Eventually, the cops are going to start jackbooting even the white nationalists and whatnot. They're going to get in some kind of armed conflict. It's just going to be mayhem, and maybe then people will realize, oh, we're in class warfare. Oh, maybe then that'll happen because, there's not another stimulus bill coming. And I don't care what your political affiliation is. And you can blame, who are you going to blame? Pelosi and McConnell. No one's passing it. Both parties have to get together to pass it. So if it's not passed, you blame both parties, and people are not going to have money.
Even if it passes, it's going to be more of the same. It's going to be, another $1 trillion for Wall Street and another 1,000 for each American or whatever. And that runs out. That doesn't last long.
Yeah. And it's going to be, and everyone's going to have to really be confronted with the fact that, like, it is collapsed. There's nothing. Both parties don't give a shit about us. This is the best scenario for the Democrats, in the sense that Biden wins the White House and the Congress stays Democrat and the Senate stays Republican. Because now Biden can go, well, we tried to pass these laws, but the Republicans stopped us,
Well, that's what that argument drives me nuts, where people are like, I'm like, why didn't Obama do this? Why didn't he do anything about climate change? Why didn't he give a shit about police brutality? Why didn't he do, and you go down the list, and because they're acting like Obama was this amazing president, and they like to go, well, except for like a year, he didn't have Congress, and Congress stopped him. It's like, dude, Trump showed you what could be done if you just did it all. If you just, like, as the president, if you just announce things, if you put signing statements and all kinds of shit, you can do all kinds of stuff. But Obama and the structure, the structure of the presidency, they don't want to do it. They as long as the fucking Wall Street is running fine and the endless war is running fine and the propaganda telling people not to pay attention to those things is running fine, there's really no incentive for them to give a shit about the other stuff.
Yeah. So it's going to be, people are going to be woken up whether they want to or not. And they're going to just, the American empire is collapsing and in real time. And this, like, blaming this party or that party or this election in that state, they didn't count. The whole system's broken, and you're seeing how broken it is. And it's like, I don't know. People are going to have to wake up, because they're going to be forced. People are going to be forced into the streets when they get evicted, or their whole industry gets wiped out. So I don't know. Yeah, that's how that checks out. So.
Yeah, I'd say so. It'd be a good time, as it's kind of all collapsing. It'd be a good time to reevaluate, our whole system and our economy and why it works this way and why you need endless consumption or instantly everything goes down. Like, the moment people stop going to restaurants, 5 times a week, and stop buying a new pair of shoes every other day, and stop, like, everything just collapses, maybe ask that question as to, well, what if we just, this is all kind of imaginary. Like, what if we just had a society where people were allowed to just, chill and, like, do, like, it didn't have to be every day buy and consume and eat it all up and shit it all out, or we're all fucked. Like, that is not a good theory for how things should work.
Isn't that Amazon's slogan? Eat it all up and shit it all out, or we're fucked.
I totally think it is. I think
Amazon Prime, $14.99 a month. Eat it
Eat it all up and shit it all out. Hurry, do it now. The economy needs you. We need you. Eat it all up and shit it all out. And if you're full, buy stuff for your pets to eat up and shit out, okay? Because they can help you in this pursuit, or else we are fucked. Just keep buying, please. I think that was the motto. It didn't fit on the box, so they had to wrap it around the side.
They need like a tiny URL kind of version for that just eat it all up and shit it all out. All right, let's go to another segment. Government secret segment number, I think 2, kind of 3. We were talking about the election, then we did election reform, so we'll call this the 3rd one.
And there might have been something about the drug war.
Yeah, that was maybe this is 3.5 or 3A or 2.6. I want to talk about my top 10 favorite American top 10. I found this article from when we were backing, when we backed Nazis in Ukraine because we didn't like Putin so much.
I thought we were still doing that.
We might still be. You remember when Hunter Biden?
I think we're still high-fiving some Nazis.
We are high-fiving Nazis. We've talked about on the show Operation Paperclip, Operation Bloodstone. We have been high-fiving Nazis since back in the day. So I wanted to show. I found this is what I'm really excited about. The top 10. It was this article in Salah, but they go through the top 10 like fascist dictators and drug lords that the United States has backed in its illustrious history. Since we have a fascist.
This sounds like a tough list to shrink down to 10. You would probably, it's like my top 10 favorite movies. I started with 100. I've got it down to 10.
Yeah, it's the whole list in this article is 35, and I was like, we don't have time for that, so I'll just make it a top 10 because this will be fun. But yeah, it's since I wanted to talk about A, it's a government secret. B, we have a fascist in the White House, and probably a different type of fascist is going to be sworn in. So it's exciting. It's exciting in America. So. Number 10, El Salvador. The civil war that swept El Salvador in the 80s was popular uprising against a government that ruled with utmost brutality. At least 70,000 people were killed and thousands more were disappeared. The UN Truth Commission set up after the war found that 95% of the dead were killed by government forces and death squads, and only 5% by FLM and guerrillas. The government forces responsibility for this one-sided slaughter were almost entirely established, trained, armed, and supervised by, you guessed it, Lee, the CIA. That's right.
Hey, ding, 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 ding.
Ding, 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 ding.
Graham, can you please have a channel where you just read about death squads in the game show voice?
Well, I'm glad you said that because I was doing the Political Vigilante game show for a while where we would have questions like this, and I would put the game show host Graham voice, and I'd have contestants. So maybe I should do a bit more of that online. This will be fun. Because it was exciting. U.S. Special Forces and the U.S. School of the Americas, the UN Truth Commission found that the units guilty of the worst atrocities, like the Al-Qadi Battalion, which conducted the infamous El Mazout massacre, were precisely the ones most closely supervised by American advisors.
So is this School of the Americas shit? Probably.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's all School of the Americas stuff. So it was a combination of the CIA, U.S. Special Forces, and School of the Americas. All did great stuff down in El Salvador. Number 9. Oh, Cuba. That's right.
Hey.
The United States supported the Batista dictatorship as it created the representative conditions that led to the Cuban Revolution, killing up to 20,000 of its own people. Former U.S. Ambassador Earl Smith testified to Congress that, quote, the U.S. was so overwhelmingly influential in Cuba that the American ambassador was the second most important man.
Yeah, and we are so butthurt that we lost Cuba. We have not yet given up on it.
No, we have to keep. We're so mad that we lost that. That like, it's so bub. The Bay of Pigs it talks about. Oh, Lee, number 8, Colombia, which of course is still in the news when the U.S. Special Forces of the DEA aided Colombian forces to track down and kill drug lord Pablo Escobar. They worked with a vigilante group called Los Pepes. In 1997, Diego Murillo Bariano and other Los Pepes leaders co-founded the AUC, United Self-Defense Forces of Colombia, which was responsible for 75% of violent civilian deaths in Colombia over the next 10 years. Wow. Oh, the DEA. Gotta love them.
Yeah, we've never met a death squad we didn't like, really. Yeah. There's almost none that we were like, shame on you.
Right. We love our death squads. And then if there's a democratically elected leader that won't give us their oil, well, then that's their own fault.
And then whenever there's a genocide that like America doesn't get involved in, and then people are like, why didn't America stand up and stop this? It's because there was no like resource benefit to it. There was nothing for us to gain from, because our government never thinks about, oh, well, we could just help make sure 2 million people aren't murdered. That doesn't factor into it. So it'd be like, what resource or benefit do we gain by getting involved? And if there's no resource there, then that's why we are like, let's see who ends up the victors.
Since we're funding indirectly Azerbaijan, we're funding them through Turkey and Israel to bomb Armenia. Smartest thing Armenians should do right now is just go, hey, we discovered oil, even if it's not true. We got a lot of oil here, and there's minerals for batteries. And then just, well, suddenly America's going to go, hey, Azerbaijan, you guys got to stand down. This is a bad play. And just build a pipeline and pump it full of fucking chocolate milk, and America's too stupid to figure it out. And then at least you save your country.
Just pour salt into the pipeline, I think.
Yeah, it's like we won't even acknowledge the Armenian genocide, so because they have no resources. Like that's that. But China, did you know this? By the end of 1945, 100,000 U.S. troops were fighting alongside Chinese and Japanese forces in communist-held areas of North China. Chiang Kai-shek and the Kuomintang may have been the most corrupt of all U.S. allies. A steady stream of U.S. advisors in China warned that U.S. aid was being stolen by Chiang and his cronies, some of it even sold to the Japanese, but the U.S. commitment to Chiang continued throughout the war. His defeat by the communists and his rule of Taiwan, Secretary of State Dulla's brinksmanship on behalf of Chiang twice led the U.S. to the brink of nuclear war with China on his behalf in 1955 and 58 over Matsu and Quemoy, two small islands off the coast of China. Wow, I didn't know that one. That's a fun one.
That is a fun one. I love being on the brink of nuclear war.
Oh, it's so great. It's another thing to just realize that could happen at any moment. Like, number 6, Chile. We've talked about Chile before.
Yes, we have.
When Salvador Allende became president in 1970, President Nixon promised to make the economy scream in Chile. The U.S., Chile's largest trading partner, cut off trade to it's our old friend sanctioning.
You might know this from such past episodes as Venezuela or Iran.
That's right, Lee. It's sanctioning, America's favorite passive-aggressive form of war. And it cut off economic. The CIA, there they are again, and State Department had conducted sophisticated propaganda operations in Chile for a decade, funding conservative politicians, parties, unions, student groups, and all forms of media, while expanding ties with the military. After General Pinochet seized power, the CIA kept Chilean officials on its payroll and worked closely with Chile's DINA intelligence agency, and the military killed thousands of people and jailed and tortured tens of thousands of more. Meanwhile, the Chicago Boys, over 100 Chilean students sent by the State Department to study under Milton Friedman at the University of Chicago, launched a radical program of privatization, deregulation, and neoliberal policies that kept the economy screaming for most Chileans throughout Pinochet's 16-year military dictatorship. It's weird. It almost seems like they've been doing that here in the States to set it.
Yeah. And I think we talked about some last week. Chile just voted to overturn the Pinochet constitution that had been, even after he was out of power, they were fucked by the constitution that wouldn't allow them to actually benefit the people. So that was a huge vote just a few weeks ago.
Well, you're seeing, like, we've talked about Bolivia on the show, and Colombia. Some of these countries are starting to regain their sovereignty back, despite the best efforts of the evil American empire. But guess who's number 5, Lee?
Well, hold on. Actually, airing right now, or aired like an hour ago, on the new Redacted tonight, I spend the opening 10 minutes covering the 3 big moments of pushing back against CIA-backed coups in the past couple of years. 2 of them this year. One was the Chile Constitution, voting to overturn that. Two was Bolivia. We talked about that on this show, where they voted out the coup government, U.S.-backed coup government. Another one is Venezuela, that successfully fought back against their coups attempts that have been done by the U.S. government. And Nicaragua as well in 2018, a U.S.-backed coup attempt that had failed. So.
Nice. Well, it's good to see. Yeah, fight back while America eats itself. Here's an opportunity to like get away from our bullshit. But number 5, Cambodia. Oh, gotta love it. We were helping the Khmer Rouge. Nixon ordered the secret and illegal bombing of Cambodia in 1969. American pilots were ordered to falsify their logs to conceal their crimes. Nixon.
Isn't he a wacky fella? Isn't he funny? That's, yeah, you know, if you're gonna murder a bunch of basically innocent people, you might as well conceal it. I mean, at that point, are you really gonna get a crisis of conscience where you're like, well, I don't want to cover up my crimes?
No, you don't want to do that. I mean, they killed at least 500,000 Cambodians, dropping more bombs than on Germany and Japan combined in World War II. That's a government secret I didn't know, Lee. I didn't know. Wasn't that fun?
I always like to surprise you, Graham.
As the Khmer Rouge gained strength in 1973, the CIA reported that its propaganda had been most effective among refugees subjected to B-52 strikes. After the Khmer Rouge killed at least 2 million of its own people and was finally driven out by the Vietnamese army in 1979, the U.S. Kamchuka Emergency Group, based in the U.S. Embassy in Bangkok, set out to feed and supply them as the resistance. Oh, boy, this sounds like kind of a white helmet charade.
Right.
That's what we do. We pick these horrible groups and then we say in our media they're the resistance to the bad empire or whatever, and it's like, no, we're the bad empire.
Yeah. And anyone who stands up to us is somehow evil, like Venezuela.
Yep. For another decade, the U.S. Defense Intelligence Agency provided the Khmer Rouge with satellite intelligence. The Khmer Rouge was evil, pure evil, and we helped. God, this country, America, is such a fucking bag of shit. What a fucking useless shithole, horrific, nightmare, evil empire we have been. We are the Emperor Palpatine. Like, that's the embodiment of America. We were founded on genocide and slavery. We've done nothing but do that for 200 fucking years. And the last 50, 60 years have been just a horrific nightmare. We're done. It's time to go, America. You're done.
You're quoting the Star Spangled Banner, right? That's what that was?
Well, that's the new Pledge of Allegiance.
Okay. Yeah.
That is the Star Spangled Banner. You soulless bags of shit. Go fuck yourselves. And then we all stand and sing. Brazil. Oh, man. 1964, General Castelo Branco led a coup that sparked 20 years of brutal military dictatorship. U.S. military attaché Vernon Walters, later deputy CIA director and UN ambassador, knew Castelo Branco well from World War II in Italy. As a clandestine CIA officer, Walters' records from Brazil have never been declassified, but the CIA provided all the support needed to ensure the success of the coup, including funding the opposition labor and student groups in street protests. As in Ukraine and Venezuela today, a U.S. Marine amphibious force on standby to land in Sao Paulo was not needed. Oh, that's too bad. Like other victims of U.S.-backed coups in Latin America, the elected president, Joao Goulart, was a wealthy landowner. Weird. Those guys keep popping up. Not a communist. Oh, God. And that's why we're friends with Bolsonaro now, who's another asshole. Like,
yeah, and I was going to say with Bolsonaro, with a straight up fascist Bolsonaro, we have been quite helpful to him. We've supported his takeover of power as they created some fake charges in a kangaroo court against Lula da Silva and put him in prison, which he's now been released because all of the whole scam was revealed by Glenn Greenwald and whistleblowers. But we love Bolsonaro. Trump loves Bolsonaro. Wall Street Journal endorsed him for his presidential run, and we just love a good fascist in Brazil.
We love South American fascists. We really love them. They're so great.
Even though Bolsonaro, because he's encouraging it, is in a way single-handedly responsible for the burning of the Amazon that's going on right now. And considering, some people call the Amazon the lungs of the planet, considering the amount of oxygen it creates, really this is like us endorsing a guy who's just punching us in the lungs, just over and over. And we're like, I love this guy.
That's how insane capitalism is. Capitalism literally will sell you the rope to get itself hung. Like it doesn't. Hey, I'm making a rope sale. Yeah, but I'm going to hang you with it. Yeah, but look at my stocks. Yeah, but you're going to be dead because I'm going to hang you with this rope.
yeah. Or I'll pay you 50 cents to dig this hole. Well, what are you going to do with it? Oh, I'm going to bury you alive in it. I'll up it to 75 cents. Okay.
Done. I'm going to sell him the shovel too. That's why I'm really going to double up the profit. All right. You're a psychopath. Speaking of South American dictators, Argentina comes in at number 3, Lee. U.S. documents declassified in 2003 detailed conversations between U.S. Secretary of State Henry Kissinger. Oh, his name keeps popping up. An Argentinian foreign minister, Admiral Guzzetti, in October 1976, soon after the military junta seized power in Argentina. Kissinger explicitly approved the junta's dirty war, in which it eventually killed up to 30,000 people, most of them young people, and stole 400 children from the families of their murdered parents. Thank you, Kissinger. Kissinger.
And keep in mind that even like this is not, most of this is not hidden. Everyone knows this about the blood on Kissinger's hands and stuff. But it's standard operating procedure for America. And the Democrats, to this day, Kissinger's like 147 years old. To this day, they continue to tout him like Hillary Clinton was like, Kissinger endorses my campaign. He's a good friend. And, I think Kissinger might have even endorsed Biden. But it's just like the Democrats, as well as the Republicans, are just like totally cool with everything Henry Kissinger did across his life.
He is horrific. He is an awful war criminal. Of course, he's friends with war criminal Hillary Clinton and war criminal Biden. They're all filthy war criminals.
Well, it's a small club, you gotta.
What are you gonna do? You know what I mean? Well, it's a nice. I'm sure they got a nice clubhouse. Number 2, Albania. We're going to take a trip back over to Eastern Europe, Lee. Between 1949 and 53, the U.S. and U.K. set out to overthrow the government of Albania, the smallest and most vulnerable communist country in Eastern Europe. You're small? Haha, suck it. Were recruited and trained to return to Albania to stir up dissent and plan an armed uprising. Many of the exiles involved in the plan were former collaborators with the Italian and German occupation during World War II. See, we love that one. That's been a recurring theme is Nazis and fascists.
You always want to have a Nazi in your back pocket just for emergencies, just in case, or your shoulder pocket for Graham. You want to have a little Nazi right there in the shoulder. Nazi pocket.
That's my little Nazi pocket.
Yeah.
Anytime I need a little Nazi fascist, I just dip in here and then just pull it out. There you go. Hey, there's a country trying to, rule itself democratically. Aha, not with my little Nazi involved.
So sprinkle a few Nazis on that. We'll see how things are going.
Oh, God, you got to love America. They included former Interior Minister Xavier Devo, who oversaw the deportations of Jews, communist partisans, and suspicious persons as described in Nazi document to Auschwitz. Declassified U.S. documents have since revealed that Devo was one of 743 fascist war criminals recruited by the U.S. after the war. This is part of Operation Bloodstone, something we did a couple episodes ago. So it's good to see Bloodstone and Paperclip. Like there's a running theme throughout the show. Number 1.
Does anyone take bets on what number 1 is?
Well, what do you think it is? The number 1 country where we backed fascists and warlord, dictator, drug dealers. Which one do you think it is?
Oh, man. I don't know. I mean, most of them are in Latin America. This has been a Latin America heavy list. I feel like there's got to be something in Africa.
Lee, is that your final answer?
Final answer.
Final answer, somewhere in Africa.
How about just backing Saudi Arabia?
Oh, so Saudi Arabia is your final answer.
No, this list is more about small
Lee
time
Camp, I
dudes.
need you to pick an answer. Stop this waffling bullshit before we get to the lightning round.
Lee Camp needs to stop this waffling bullshit in order for us to continue with the show.
While we break for commercial, will Lee Camp stop the waffling bullshit? Find out after these messages when we return to Government Secrets Game Show. Who's that dictator?
Honduras.
Honduras.
I don't know. You go.
Lee Camp has gone from Central America to Africa to the Middle East. To America, ladies and gentlemen.
Lee Camp doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about.
Lee Camp, one of our worst contestants.
He's actually lost. He's lost this show 3 times over, and yet we keep him sitting there. We're not sure why.
He studied all of this for the last 10 years as a political comedian, and yet can't just pick one goddamn issue. Ladies and gentlemen, the correct answer. Our longest running war, Afghanistan. That's right,
nice.
Lee Camp. You got close to Saudi Arabia. You got in the backyard, but then you jumped ship like a scared baby over to Honduras. It doesn't sound mean when you do the game show voice. You didn't horrific and you get away with it, right?
Well, I was thinking, is it possible the game show voice makes everything better? Like, this has been far more easy to listen to. But I've enjoyed listening about all the horrors of America because it seems quite fun with the game show voice. But I'm like if the game show voice guy was like, hello, Lee, you've walked in on me fucking your wife. This is uncomfortable, and I'm sorry about this, but I am winning, and you are losing.
Yeah, it wouldn't be that bad. Your wife said I gave it to her better than you did, and we'll find out more after these messages.
And as a parting gift, here's a coupon to Denny's.
A parting gift, you get this IHOP gift certificate for $50. Take you and your family to go get some IHOP. Oh, Afghanistan of the 1980s, the U.S. worked with Pakistan and Saudi Arabia. Oh, that was on your short list, Lee, to overthrow Afghanistan's socialist government. It funded, trained, and armed forces led by conservative tribal leaders whose power was threatened by their country's progress on education, women's rights, and land reform. God forbid the Afghanistan people actually get nice things. After Mikhail Gorbachev withdrew Soviet forces in 1989, these U.S.-backed warlords tore the country apart and boosted opium production to an unprecedented level to 200 to 3,400 tons per year. The Taliban government cut opium production by 95% in 2 years between 1999 and 2001, but the U.S. invasion in 2001 restored the warlords and drug lords to power. Afghanistan now ranks 175th out of 177 countries in the world for corruption. Attaboy. 175 out of 186 in human development. So
what I heard was you said we brought them democracy. Is that right?
That's exactly what I just read. That's what those numbers mean, is they got a big fat fistful of red, white, and blue democracy lubed up and fisted into their hindquarters. Yeah, this is just Hamid. President Karzai's brother, Ahmed Wali Karzai, was well known as a CIA-backed drug lord. This is just fantastic what the CIA's done. Oh, I can't even. There's a Colonel Abdul Razik was appointed Providence police chief, boosting a heroin smuggling operation that already earned him $60 million per year in one of the poorest countries of the world. Oh, outstanding!
A mere $60 million a year.
That's it. So that's
for anybody out there who's upset that we left your home country off the list or left your place your relatives are from off the list, we're very sorry. We will if you guys just try harder, if you maybe kill more dissidents or something, maybe starve more people, you can get on that list next year. I mean, we're taking contestants right now. We're taking applications. So.
If you think your country should be overthrown, send us a letter to Government Secrets. We'll forward it to the Central Intelligence Agency and get to work on fostering a coup that screws over your people and takes your resources.
Or if you're out of envelopes, just nationalize your resources and you can apply to be overrun.
If you're out of envelopes, the simplest way, nationalize your resources, give it to the people, and within 6 to 9 months, the CIA will be at your doorstep. Oh, God. That's it. That's the quickest way. All right. I'm going to start doing this game show more.
See, the problem is, I think you just went through 10 weeks of episodes of Government Secrets in one list.
Yeah, I know. I should have. Well, it was a list of 35. So there's another 25 weeks of shows we could do.
Okay, good.
I know it was 10 weeks of 10 episodes in one.
I was worried that we'd run out of CIA backed coups. So.
Oh, no. There's another 25. And we just did one a week. It gets us through half a year. So,
but by the way, to give a little extra government secret, bonus government secret
bonus content, government secret
on our list of CIA-backed coups. There, John Kiriakou, former CIA agent who was the whistleblower who revealed our torture program, he has said that there's literally an office, like a small office at the CIA, that is like the office of overthrowing countries. And I think he said, when he was revealing this, I think he said he had to be careful not to say what it's really called. But it's basically the office of overthrowing countries. And he said, literally, as a CIA agent, you would write up a little report about why you wanted to overthrow a country. And then you'd go into the office and you'd be like, I'd like to overthrow this country. And you'd give them the application and they'd take it under consideration. Like,
just so you're working at the CIA, somebody just knocks on your, excuse me, where's the coup office? I want to submit a coup.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
You go, if you see the water cooler, you make a left, and then it's planting people in lefty organizations. If you've hit that office, you've gone too far. So
yeah. And if you go, when you go in the door, if you see a guy with his nutsack attached to a car battery, that's the torture room. That's the wrong room. You want to go back next to that one.
The torture room has the best coffee, but that's not where you want to set the form. The form you want to put it in the coup room.
Yes.
It's fucking. The CIA is in an organization of evil, insane people. Like.
Yeah.
I want to submit a coup. I want to submit a coup. So do I. Like, what? How come my coup didn't get picked? Like, oh man.
Yeah. Do you have any idea how long I spent researching that paper I wrote on why we needed to coup them? I don't understand why I got rejected. Is there a hotline I can call? Or
here's what you do: take the head of the coup office golfing, let him win, and then slide.
And when you go out to lunch, give them a little handy under the table.
You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Then rub one out, and then right afterwards, and you just slide that form across the table, and then everyone things happen. Oh, that's good. John Kiriakou. I've had him on this on Political Vigilante. I've had him on. Have you had him on Redacted?
Yes. Yeah. Good guy.
It's a good, solid interview. Well, that's Government Secrets, episode 15. The coup episode. Lee Camp, where can people view all of your gloriousness? By the way, if you're listening, please, if you're watching this, whatever, download it on iTunes or Spotify. Give it a positive review. All those things all help the analytics. If you're watching the video on either one of our channels, like it, share it, positive comments. Make sure you're subscribing to both of our channels. All those things help. And then check out Lee Camp at these various online institutions.
Yes. Yeah. So please obviously share the podcast. But you're watching this on Graham Elwood's YouTube channel. My newer YouTube channel is called youtube.com/Moment of Clarity. So I would love for you to go over there, hit subscribe. I do live streams. I put up a bunch of live videos every week. So that's youtube.com/Moment of Clarity. Hit subscribe, hit the bell icon. And then for all my other stuff, just go to leecamp.com. I have a TV show called Redacted Tonight. I have comedy specials. I have books. I have all kinds of shit that you can put in your ear or your eye holes or your mouth. Although I don't know if you'll get as much out of it, but you can try. So lots of good stuff.
Stick government secrets in your mouth, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, so if you're watching this or listening to it or watching this on Lee's platform, you can go to my YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/Graham Elwood. My show is called The Political Vigilante. I go live 4 or 5 days a week. I drop 2 to 3 clips a day. And then I'm also on rockfin.com/Graham Elwood. I believe Lee's going to be joining Rockfin soon.
I believe my first 2 videos are up. I think it's rockfin.com/Lee Camp, or is it /Jimmy Dore? No, it's /Lee Camp, I think. Yeah.
Well, folks, please come over to Rockfin. Rockfin is a blockchain cryptocurrency platform. All of us content creators, Jimmy's on there, Lee, Kim Iverson, Nico House, Convo Couch. And so it's $10 a month for the premium content on that channel. And you get all of our premium stuff.
But also you can watch a lot of it for free as well. So
yes, there's a lot of free content. And if you want to go premium, that's great too. So you can watch all of our stuff, and there's a lot of, and they're really cultivating like lefty indie media voices and wrestling and MMA. I don't know why it's a crazy combination, but I love it.
Come to us for all of your lefty media and MMA needs.
It's learn about how workers own the means of production, especially in a fucking chokehold, bitch. So yeah,
here's how to peacefully protest in the streets or kick a guy in the face.
Oh yeah, right in the solar plexus, so he can't breathe. Now he knows what tear gas feels like. So yeah, support all of our platforms. I'm also at Graham Elwood on Twitter, and like and subscribe. All those little things help all of our analytics. You have no idea. So please like and hit all those buttons and all that. Lee Camp, thank you so much for doing Government Secrets, episode 15. Lock it down. Put it in the books.
Thanks, Graham. See you soon.
All right, buddy.